How many times do you think you've gotten into a stranger's car? If you use rideshare apps, it's probably tens, if not hundreds of times, right? Most of the time, it's just a normal transaction. Professional driver, pleasant small talk, safe arrival. But sometimes that stranger behind the wheel knows way more about you than they should. My name is Jessica, and I work as a marketing intern at a small company in Naples. I just finished college and was living in a tiny apartment near downtown, trying to save money while getting some real-world experience. I don't have a driver's license, never needed one in college, and honestly, I couldn't afford a car anyway. So I relied on rideshare apps and particularly Uber to get around, especially for longer trips. My mom lives about 45 minutes away in Fort Myers, and between my crazy work schedule and the distance, I didn't see her nearly as often as I wanted to. But we talked on the phone constantly, and she was always encouraging about my new job, even when I had to work late nights. That's how I first met Derek. I'd been putting in 12-hour days trying to impress my boss, and it was around 10 p.m. on a Tuesday when I finally called for a ride home. When the car pulled up, a clean silver Honda Civic, the driver seemed normal enough, mid-30s, blonde, clean-cut, friendly smile. "Jessica?" he asked, and I confirmed and got in. "Long day at the office?" he said, pulling away from the curb. "Yeah, but I love what I'm doing," I replied, settling into the back seat. "That's great to hear. I'm Derek, by the way. And hey, work hard while you're young, right? Well, plenty of time to relax later." It was pleasant, normal conversation. He had a slight southern accent and seemed genuinely nice. The ride went smoothly, and I gave him 5 stars without thinking much about it. But over the next few weeks, something strange started happening. Derek kept being my driver. At first, I figured it was just a coincidence. Naples isn't that big, and maybe he worked the same evening shift I did. But by the 4th time in 2 weeks, it was starting to feel weird. "Hey, Jessica," he'd say when I got in, like we were old friends. Another late night. The conversations got a little more personal each time. He'd ask about my work, remember details I'd mentioned in previous rides. Nothing inappropriate, just attentive, maybe too attentive. "How's that big presentation coming along?" he asked one evening, and I paused, trying to remember if I'd told him about it. I must have, right? By the 6th week, Derek wasn't just remembering our conversations, he was anticipating my needs. "Heading home to your place near 5th Avenue?" he'd ask before I'd even given him the address. "Or are you finally going to visit your mom in Fort Myers?" That stopped me cold. I'd never told Derek where my mom lived. "How did you know my mom lives in Fort Myers?" Derek glanced at me in the rearview mirror, smiling. "You mentioned it before, remember? You were talking about how you don't get to see her enough because of work." I tried to remember having that conversation, but I couldn't. Maybe I had mentioned it and just forgot. Late night rides tend to blur together. But then Derek started showing up in other places. I was grocery shopping at the Whole Foods near my apartment one Saturday when I saw him in the produce section. He waved cheerfully when he spotted me. "Small world," he called out, walking over with his cart. "I live just a few blocks from here. How's your weekend going?" It felt normal enough. People run into each other at stores all the time, but something about it made me uncomfortable. The next Sunday, I was at church, the Presbyterian one near my home, something I'd started doing regularly since moving to Naples. And there was Derek sitting 3 rows behind me. After the service, he came up to chat. "I've been coming to this church for years," he said. "Funny that we keep running into each other, isn't it?" I nodded and made polite conversation, but my skin was crawling. What were the odds that my frequent Uber driver also shopped at my grocery store and went to my church? The coincidences kept adding up. Derek at the coffee shop where I sometimes worked on weekends, Derek at the mall where I'd gone clothes shopping, Derek at the beach where I'd gone for a run. Every encounter felt innocent enough on its own, but together they painted a disturbing picture. And our rideshare conversations were getting more personal. "How's your mom doing?" he asked one evening. "She must be proud of how well you're doing at work." "She is," I said carefully. "How did you know?" "You light up every time you talk about her," Derek said, eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. "It's sweet. I bet she worries about you working so late, living alone in the city." I'd never told him I lived alone. "You know," Derek continued, "Fort Myers is nice, quieter than Naples. I bet your mom's neighborhood is real peaceful. Probably one of those older developments with big trees and friendly neighbors who look out for each other." He was describing my mom's neighborhood perfectly. but I was certain I'd never given him those details. "Derek," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "how do you know so much about where my mom lives?" "Just good at reading people, I guess," he said with that same friendly smile. "Plus, you've mentioned little things here and there. I have a good memory." But I was starting to doubt my own memory. Had I really shared that much personal information during our rides? The conversations always felt so natural, so normal. Maybe I had been more talkative than I remembered. Still, I started requesting different drivers when I could, but Derek kept being assigned to my rides, especially for the longer trips. And every time I got in his car, he seemed to know a little bit more. "How's work treating you? Still putting in those long hours for Mr. Wild?" he asked one night. I'd never told him my boss's name. "Your apartment building is nice," he mentioned during another ride. "That courtyard with the fountain is really pretty. Must be peaceful to sit out there in the evenings." My blood ran cold. My apartment did have a small courtyard with a fountain, but you couldn't see it from the street. I was getting seriously creeped out, but I didn't know what to do. Derek hadn't actually done anything wrong. He was always polite, professional, never inappropriate. But the accumulation of knowledge, the constant coincidental encounters, the way he seemed to know details about my life that I was sure I'd never shared, it was affecting my sleep, my work, everything. That's when my mom called with exciting news. "Sweetie, I want you to meet someone," she said, practically glowing through the phone. "I've been seeing this wonderful man. We're just friends for now, but he's been so helpful. He's been fixing things around the house, bringing groceries when I'm not feeling well. He's just the sweetest person." I was happy for her. Since my dad passed 5 years ago, Mom had been lonely. She deserved some companionship. "He knows so much about you already," Mom continued. "I talk about you all the time, of course. He's so interested in your career, your life in Naples. He keeps saying he'd love to meet you." "What's his name?" I asked. "Janus! Janus Powler. He's half Polish or something, and he's coming over for dinner this Sunday. I was hoping you could finally make the trip up here to meet him. I know you've been so busy with work, but it would mean the world to me." "Mom, what does Janus look like?" "Oh, he's very nice looking. Bald but cute, friendly face. Drives a silver car. He's always offering to take me places." "Why do you ask?" "Nah, I'm sure it's nothing," I said. "That Sunday I took a red coach to Fort Myers. No way was I calling a rideshare. I arrived at my mom's house around 6 p.m., but her car wasn't in the driveway. I used my key to let myself in and called out, 'Mom!' 'I'm here.' No answer. I checked my phone. A text from Mom saying she was running late, would be there by 6:30. 'Janus is already there though. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable.' But I didn't see anyone in the house. I decided to go down to the basement where my old bedroom was. Mom had kept it exactly as I'd left it when I went to college. I wanted to grab a few things I'd forgotten. I was looking through my old desk when I heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy, deliberate footsteps walking across the living room. "Hello?" I called out. "Janus?" No answer, but the footsteps stopped. Then I heard them again, coming toward the basement stairs. "Mom!" I called, but I knew it wasn't her. These were a man's footsteps, and they were coming down the stairs fast. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs before I was able to peek out of my room. Then they stopped. The door slid open, slowly, and there stood a bald guy, Derek, my Uber driver, smiling that same friendly smile I'd seen so many times. In his hand, a blonde wig. "Hey, sweetie," he said, stepping into the room. "I've been so looking forward to finally meeting you properly." I froze. My body wouldn't move, wouldn't respond. This couldn't be happening. Derek took another step into the room. "Your mom talks about you constantly, but I already knew so much about you, didn't I? We've spent so much time together." That broke the spell. I screamed and shoved past him as hard as I could, knocking him off balance. I ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. "Jess!" Derek called behind me, his footsteps pounding up the stairs. "Wait, did I do something wrong? I was just trying to be friendly." I reached the front door and fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn it. "Jess, please!" Derek shouted from behind me. "I don't understand what's happening. Why are you running?" I got the door open and ran outside just as my phone rang. I was standing in the street, shaking and gasping for air when I saw the caller ID. Mom. "Hi, sweetie," her cheerful voice came through the speaker. "I'm so sorry I'm running late. Traffic was terrible. When are you coming over? Derek is so excited to meet you." "Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "I'm not coming over." "What? Why not? Are you feeling okay?" I looked back at the house. Derek was standing in the doorway, watching me with that same confused, hurt expression. "Mom, I can't explain right now, but I'm not coming to dinner." "And Mom," I paused, still staring at Derek. "Be careful with Derek. Janus, I mean." "Careful? Honey, what are you talking about? Janus is the sweetest man. He's been nothing but kind to me." I hung up and called a taxi. I never told my mom the whole truth. How could I explain that her new boyfriend had been stalking me for 2 months? That he'd been showing up everywhere I went, learning intimate details about my life, manipulating his way into our family? I moved back to Naples that night and never took another rideshare. I also convinced Mom to take things slow with Janus, though I never told her why. She stopped mentioning him after about a week. I still wonder how long Derek had been planning it all. Did he target me randomly, or was there something specific that made him choose me? And how many other young women has he met through rideshare apps? If you use rideshare apps regularly, pay attention to your drivers. Notice if the same person keeps picking you up. Notice if they remember too much, know too much, show up too often in your daily life. And maybe don't share so much personal information during those late night rides. You never know who's really listening.